had another interview, and this one did kind of fly under the radar. I don't know why, but there wasn't as much attention given to this. There's a couple of moments during this interview I do want to focus on, and that has to deal with the economy, because, we've been talking about these groceries and this money and all this jazz. So I will say this. The woman who interviewed her on MSNBC, I do feel like she did push back a little bit more. Not as much as I would have wanted her to, but I will also fair warn you, because I saw the entire interview. It's roughly about 30 minutes, I believe. There was no discussion about foreign policy. So I don't know if the interviewer just didn't want to discuss that, or if she was told that Kamala was not going to have that conversation. Pretty interesting. Let's get into this part here about the economy. And she's by herself. She's not with Tim Walz.
Over the last 4 years, there have been tremendous economic wins, and you've just laid out a big plan. But still, polling shows that most likely voters still think Donald Trump is better to handle the economy. Why do you think that is?
Well, here's what I know in terms of the facts. Donald Trump left us with the worst economy.
Employment was so high because we shut down the government, we shut down the country.
Even before the pandemic, he lost manufacturing jobs by most people's estimates, at least 200,000. He lost manufacturing plants. Ask the auto workers how he lost auto plants. We have grown over 20 new auto plants. He has an agenda. Let's just deal with it right now going forward, not to mention what happened in the past. He has an agenda that would include making it more difficult for workers to earn overtime, an agenda that would include cutting off access to small business loans for small businesses, an agenda that includes tariffs to the point that the average working person will spend 20% more on everyday necessities and an estimated $4,000 more a year on those everyday necessities, to the point that top economists in our country, from Nobel laureates to people at Moody's and Goldman Sachs, have compared my plan with his and said my plan would grow the economy, his would shrink the economy.
Pause. So we're about halfway into her answer, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but she didn't answer the question. She's kind of like, the question was, why do you think that voters still feel more comfortable with the economy under Donald Trump compared to, the Biden administration, or actually what would be just Kamala going forward if she were to win? She didn't answer the question. Now, she is talking a little bit about what she wants to do, etc. But I think it is important that you do answer that. But I think if she answers that, it kind of takes off the mask that the Biden administration has not been 100% truthful about this economy and about their role in it. Tomorrow, I'm going to go over the Black unemployment rate, which Kamala Harris, again, everybody's like Black woman or whatever, is not talking about. And the reason why she's not talking about it, because if she does talk about it, then that means that they've been lying to you about that jobs report, which was already outed on CNN, by the way. They mentioned it during the DNC. They said that the job report numbers were incorrect. They said that basically the Biden administration was cooking the books. So they were lying about those jobs, which is what I told you guys. I knew people that have been looking for jobs for quite a long time. I have a friend that just got a job after being laid off after 9 months. So I know. And then not only that, but Kamala Harris isn't telling people that when it comes to Black unemployment has increased. In fact, when you look at all the different races in the United States, Black unemployment increased the most. And she's not talking about that. And Biden's not talking about that, because that is a bad reflection on them. So she don't want to answer the question. So I'll answer the question. We all know the economy was tough during COVID, during the pandemic. We know that. And, things were shut down. The governors, it was left up to the governors whether or not they were going to close businesses and stuff like that. So it was left up to the states. Some states stayed open. Some of them did not. And I was in I'm in Massachusetts. Our state shut down. And a lot of people lost businesses and people lost their jobs. It's just a reality. That being said, though, it is now 2024. And what Kamala Harris and the Biden administration, what they have not been able to account for are all the things that have happened under their administration after that. I expect the first year was still going to be a little bit rocky because of the pandemic. But in 2024, why did Black unemployment increase? In 2024, why are the grocery prices still so high? They keep saying, oh, we're going to tackle the prices. Why can't you tackle that right now? The problem that Kamala Harris tends to run into is the fact that she is still a part of the current administration. And it would be different if it was Gavin Newsom sitting right here and he could say, well, when I'm president, I'm going to do da da da, even though, it'd be lying shit too. But it would be different because he's not a part of the current administration. He can't sit back and say, oh, yeah, you're right. We messed up there. We didn't do this. He wouldn't have to worry about that because he's not a part of the current administration. And I believe this is part of the reason why Barack Obama wanted to have an open primary. One, it was revealed that he didn't think that Kamala Harris can beat Donald Trump. But two, I think part of it is because everything that people have a problem with the Biden administration is also going to be connected to Kamala Harris. And as much as they continue to say she can separate herself from Joe Biden, that's not really happening because Joe Biden is still there. And so is Kamala Harris. But she didn't answer that question.
Some of them have actually assessed that his plan would increase inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. So the facts remain that Donald Trump has a history of taking care of very rich people. And I'm not mad at anybody for being rich, but they should pay their fair share. But tax cuts for the billionaires and the top corporations in our country, and then not really paying much attention to middle-class families.
And you're going to do it for them too, because otherwise they wouldn't be endorsing you. You're going to do it for them too, because otherwise they wouldn't be donating to your campaign. I'm really supposed to believe that you care about middle-class families when you are promoting Goldman Sachs? Are you serious? I'm really supposed to believe that you care about working people in this country when you've aligned yourself with Wall Street, when you've aligned yourself with billionaires like Reid Hoffman. I'm supposed to believe that you care about middle class. First of all, what fucking middle class? What are they talking about? What is left of the middle class in the United States? The people you need to be talking to are the people who are low income, working poor. We barely have a middle class in this country. So what do you mean? Who you trying to protect? If you tell me you're looking out for the middle class, that means you are looking out for a select few people in this country, because the majority of Americans are not middle class. I hope everybody really takes that and internalizes that, because I want you to think about that every time you hear, we got to help the middle class. That means they're not going to help most of you. That's really what that means.
My perspective on the economy is when you grow the middle class, America's economy is stronger. And there's empirical evidence to prove my point correct.
Then let me ask you about taxes, because lots of people will say, I don't like Donald Trump, but he cut my taxes. He didn't just cut corporate expires next year. And there's some people confused saying, I don't know what's going to happen next year. Under a Harris administration, at what income level should someone expect their taxes to go up? And that state and local tax deduction that's currently capped and matters to a lot of people in blue states, you're going to lift that cap?
So first of all, when it relates to anybody making less than $400,000 a year, your taxes will not go up. Your taxes will not go up. And in fact, under my plan, taxes for 100 million Americans will actually be cut, including $6,000 a year for young couples for the first year of their child's life in a tax cut, a tax credit, essentially, by expansion of the child tax credit. And why is that? Because during the first year of a young couple, of a person's child's life, they're going to need help buying a crib, buying a car seat. And we all benefit when they're actually able to do what they naturally want to do to take care of their child.
And expand.
Did they edit that? I thought so. Can you rewind? I think they edited the interviewer's last response. Let me go back just a little bit to you talk about the tax question, I think. Let's see. Let me see, because I thought something was weird with that.
Year, and there's some people confused saying, I don't know what's going to happen next year. Under a Harris administration, at what income level should someone expect their taxes to go up? And that state and local tax deduction that's currently capped and matters to a lot of people.
Is when you grow the middle class, America's economy is stronger. And there's empirical evidence to prove my point correct.
Then let me ask you about taxes, because lots of people will say, I don't like Donald Trump, but he cut my taxes. He didn't just cut corporate taxes, he cut individual taxes. Now that expires next year. And there's some people confused saying, I don't know what's.
This must have been a recorded interview. They must have recorded this interview. Yeah, Ashura said they skipped it. Yeah, it seems like they cut something out after she said individual taxes. I think you're right. Okay. My bad, guys.
What's going to happen next year? Under a Harris administration, at what income level should someone expect their taxes to go up? And that state and local tax deduction that's currently capped and matters to a lot of people in blue states, are you going to lift that cap?
So first of all, when it relates to anybody making less than $400,000 a year, your taxes will not go up. Your taxes will not go up. And in fact, under my plan, taxes for 100 million Americans will actually be cut, including $6,000 a year for young couples for the first year of their child's life in a tax cut, a tax credit, essentially, by expansion of the child tax credit. And why is that? Because during the first year of a young couple, of a person's child's life, they're going to need help buying a crib, buying a car seat. And we all benefit when they're actually able to do what they naturally want to do to take care of their child.
And expanding that child tax.
Let me just pause here for a second. This is something that I could have sworn her and Joe Biden already said they were going to do. The $400,000, if you make under $400,000, then you wouldn't have to have the increase of taxes. I thought they had already said they were going to do that. See, if you look at like the policies on her website, we went over this a couple of nights ago. Some of these policies, a lot of them on her website, they're just Joe Biden's policies. She's just changed the number on some of them. Even the $25,000 down payment / tax credit, whatever it is tomorrow, because they keep changing the wording around that. That was also one of Biden's. It was basically they took Biden's platform and pasted on a new site and put Kamala's name on it, and they changed some of the numbers. A lot of people don't know this. Even when she talks about building more homes, that was also Biden's thing. Woo, child.
Credit, or you mentioned housing before, giving that extra money for a first home. If you can't raise corporate taxes, or if GOP takes control of the Senate, where do you get the money to do that? Do you still go forward with those plans and borrow?
Well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes, and we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share.
You can do that right now. They could have been doing that right now. So that's the thing I want people to understand, because the reality is, as much as people have been complaining about the economy under their administration, they could have already done that. She's a part of the current administration.
It's just it. It's about paying their fair share. I am not mad at anyone for achieving success, but everyone should pay their fair share. And it is not right that the teachers and the firefighters that I meet every day across our country are paying a higher tax than the richest people in our country.
Bill Gates just said it this week. If he was in charge of taxes, he would have paid more. But how do you find that line to make sure corporations are paying their fair share, but they're not leaving our country?
Well, listen, I work.
First of all, the framing of that is completely ridiculous, because let's keep it real. To make sure corporations are paying their fair share, but they're not leaving our country. First of all, if they want to leave, they'll leave. You can't make them stay here. Like what is this? What kind of mess is this? Listen to her response.
With a lot of CEOs, I have spent a lot of time with CEOs, and I'm going to tell you that the business leaders who are actually part of the engine of America's economy agree that people should pay their fair share. They also agree that when we look at a plan such as mine that is about investing in the middle class, investing in new industries, investing in bringing down costs, invest in entrepreneurs like small businesses, that the overall economy is stronger and everyone benefits. Part of my plan for the economy is investing in new industries in a way that we have active partnership with the private sector my entire career.
So you see that? Notice they got another cut here. They cut something else, or they edited something else out there. But I want to say this as well about the corporations. Everybody pay attention to the framing, because I don't know, I pay attention to like the framing. And now we've gone to, we are going to stop corporations from price gouging, to we are going to invest in bringing down costs. So these are just kind of things I don't feel like, and I don't want to be one to say, oh, this person doesn't have a plan, but I feel like these are things that she knows cannot get done. That's how I feel. And I think she's saying whatever she can right now to win, but a lot of people are going to be angry, because I've been hearing people complain about the economy since 2020. And I don't know. I mean, the way things are going right now, what's going to happen next year? What's going to happen in 2025 economically? Oh, whoops. Sorry. Uh-oh. Let me reboot this. Where are we? 724. Yeah, it's something with that interview where I don't know. Okay.
Down cost. Invest in entrepreneurs like small businesses, that the overall economy is stronger and everyone benefits. Part of my plan for the economy is investing in new industries in a way that we have active partnership with the private sector. I've worked with the private sector my entire career. Even as vice president, working with some of the biggest banks and biggest tech companies to increase by billions of dollars the money going into community banks, to increase access to capital for small businesses. Why do those biggest corporations and CEOs do that? Because they know those kinds of investments, like in our small businesses, in startups and entrepreneurs, actually strengthens America's economy overall, and everyone benefits. So this is not about bilking anybody, but it is certainly about saying, let's make sure that we create opportunities for everyone to grow wealth. I believe that it is not sufficient, and it should not be our goal to just make sure everyone is working. That should be the baseline. That should be a given. And let's create an economy where people have the ability to buy a home, to start a business, to take a nice vacation from time to time, right?
So this isn't as bad as like her last performance, but I will say this. When Kamala Harris talks about the economy, and she talks about working with all these different corporations, it comes across to me like she thinks that bragging about working with Goldman Sachs is a good thing. Like she feels as though these people are doing the right thing and they actually care about what is going to happen to the working class. They don't. Most CEOs don't care. Most billionaires don't care. They care about their bottom line. And it's almost like in her mind, she thinks that this is a good thing. It's good to work with billionaires. It's good to work with Goldman Sachs. It's not. And none of those Wall Street like companies will be working with you unless there's something you're going to do for them. They're not going to just give you money and donate to you just because. They're going to want something else in return. So I highly doubt that Wall Street is going to donate money to Kamala Harris so that she can make them pay more taxes. Everybody think about this for a second and let that really sink in. And then we go to this part of the discussion about the tariffs.
About tariffs, because you just mentioned it. It's not just with one company. Donald Trump's sort of big idea is this broad-based tariffs across the board. You and many others have said that would be not only disastrous, but it would be a direct tax on the American consumer.
It would be a sales tax on the American people. The independent economists have already measured this by the sales tax of doing a 20% tariffs on all imports that he has described would be a 20% sales tax, in essence, on basic necessities for the average American worker, average American family, totaling almost $4,000 a year. That is no small matter. Here in Pittsburgh, when I'm talking to a group of folks who work here, who live here, and when they hear it might be $4,000 more a year for them, look, people can't afford that.
But tariffs aren't unique to President Trump. President Biden has tariffs in place. He's actually looking to potentially implement more. Where do you come out on? Is there a good tariff?
Look at the look on Kamala's face when she said that. So the interviewer was, this is, I will say this. I was kind of surprised that the reporter said this. She was like, but Biden does it too. She was like, what? No. You're not supposed to say that.
A bad tariff.
Well, part of it is you don't just throw around the idea of just tariffs across the board. And that's part of the problem with Donald Trump. Frankly, I'm going to, and I say this in all sincerity, he's just not very serious about how he thinks about some of these issues.
So now you see what Kamala just did. Like, the reporter has moved on from Donald Trump. She already asked about that part of the conversation, right? But now she's saying that Biden does it too. And so Kamala, instead of responding to Biden also implementing tariffs, she pivots back to Donald Trump. Because she doesn't want to have to criticize Joe Biden doing the same thing. Also, when we talk about the tax issues, don't forget the Biden administration continued some of Trump's tax cuts for the wealthy. And
one must be serious and have a plan, and a real plan that's not just about some talking point ending in an exclamation at a political rally, but actually putting the thought into what will be the return on the investment, what will be the economic impact on everyday people. And when you look at my plans, you will see what those benefits will be. $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. You know what that means? Then you're creating the ability of that working person to build intergenerational wealth.
See, she's gone from $25,000 down payment assistance to $25,000 tax credit for the home. And on her website, it says up to $25,000. And I just keep saying this every time she says it because I don't want people to be disappointed. I don't want people to think they're going to get $25,000 for down payment assistance. I don't think that's what this is going to be at all. I'm just keeping it real with you. If it sounds a little too good to be true and they haven't explained how they're going to do it and they keep flip-flopping on the terms, don't know.
Doing the work of a $6,000 child tax credit, doing the work of a $50,000 tax deduction for first-time small businesses, startups, because right now—
That's a real plan.
It's a real plan, because right now, and again, it's about paying attention to the detail and being serious about it. I'm serious about my enthusiasm and for small businesses and my belief in what they will do as part of America's economic engine.
On Friday, sorry.
So looking at the fact that right now the tax deduction is $5,000, nobody in this year of our Lord 2024 can start a small business with $5,000. Very few can. So extending it to $50,000 tax deduction for startups to generate the innovation and the ambition of the ideas that are present and among us, but need the fuel to be able to actually achieve the goal.
So again, as I said before, a lot of Kamala's policies to me connect with the laptop class, or it connects with college educated or college graduates that cannot pursue starting a family or buying a home because they're not financially where they need to be to do that just yet. And because the economy, et cetera, and housing is expensive. Some of the things that she talks about, like small businesses, starting a business, and don't get me wrong, I think small businesses are great. I love mom and pop businesses. I'd rather go to them than to the megacorps, obviously. But the reality is, it seems like there's a lot of focus on entrepreneurship, and that tends to resonate with a certain class of people. And the reality is, everybody doesn't want to start a small business. Some people just want to work for a company. Some people just want to work for someone else. Not everyone wants to be a boss. And that worries me, that there's so much focus on starting a small business as if that is going to be the answer. And the reality is, everyone can't start a business. Everyone can't be an entrepreneur. What are you going to do for the people who just want to work for someone else? I don't hear anything about the dollar amount for the minimum wage. Even on her website, there's no dollar amount. What do you mean? Raise the minimum wage? Raise it to what? $8 instead of $7.25? It's such a mess. It's such a mess. I think that it just goes to show you how out of touch a lot of politicians are. And I do think that Kamala Harris is out of touch. I don't think that she has that connection to the working class, particularly those that are lower income. It just seems like she does not have that connection. And some of the things that she's talking about, like I said before, if I were to go to the hood and ask people, hey, what do you want? What are you looking for? It just, the things that she's talking about, it does not resonate with a lot of people that are in that particular situation. I don't know, man. It's a hot mess. I will say she did better on that interview than some of the other ones, but it's also very weird to me that they didn't ask any questions about foreign policy in that interview. And that tells me that either Kamala's camp said not to ask it, or the reporter was afraid to ask about it.